Well, hello for the second time today, and welcome once again to Political Dharma with Alan Zundell. Earlier today, I posted a video just focusing on following the career of former independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And in this update, I have the updates regarding independent candidates and alternative parties beyond the two-party system. I have four stories for you today. One with more news about the investigation of the former chair of the Libertarian Party and complaints and allegations against her. The second one has to do with another political party joining the lawsuit against California's top two electoral method. And then the third one is about an independent candidate who ran for Congress in North Carolina in this last election cycle, reflecting back on lessons learned about that. And then finally, a reminder about the Workers' Strike Back event that was being held this weekend, and anticipating learning more about that for the coming show. Okay, next weekend, when I'll have time to review it. Let's get started on the first story today. Going back again to the problems of the Libertarian Party, there is a caucus within the Libertarian Party, the Libertarian Party Medical Freedom Caucus, and they have announced, you see here on your screen if you're watching this in video form, they have announced that they are setting up a fund to raise about $50,000 to hire an outside independent investigation of the allegations against the former chair of the Libertarian Party National Committee, Angela McArdle. Now, McArdle has been accused of a number of things, mostly having to do with breach of fiduciary duty and self-dealing with money from being donated to the Libertarian Party, or both to the Kennedy campaign and the Libertarian Party, which was an unusual setup. And there is a committee, a special investigative committee, already set up by the Libertarian Party National Committee to look into this. But these folks in the Medical Freedom Caucus decided that it would be good to have an outside firm investigate this as well, just in case there were enough sympathizers of McArdle on the internal investigation to somehow compromise the results. Anyway, continuing saga within the Libertarian Party here in the United States. That's all I have on that quick one, just to show you that it's still going on. They still haven't sorted out those internal problems. Well, that chair did resign. She says she took a job, or she had been offered a job in the Department of Health and Human Services, now under the leadership of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but I haven't been able to find any news about whether she actually has a position in that or not. Strange story all the way around. Her career, as well as Kennedy's, this whole last election year was a lot of unusual happenings. So the second story I have now is about the the electoral method in California uses something it's now called open primaries with a top two runoff. What it is all the candidates from all the parties run in the primary election, and the two candidates who get the highest number of votes go to the general election. That means all voters, no matter which party, get to vote on all candidates, no matter which party. The political parties don't have any say in who gets into the primary. It's just candidates having to qualify for the ballot, and then they can list whatever qualified party they want to say they belong to, essentially. So the parties have lost a lot of control there. There is a lawsuit against this system brought by the Peace and Freedom Party of California, which exists only in this state, and the Green Party of California and the Libertarian Party of California. Well, the news this week is that there's another party that's joined this lawsuit. This is the American Solidarity Party. On February 21st, which is just yesterday, they added they amended their complaint to include the American Solidarity Party. Now, what the complaint is that this type of system freezes all alternative parties and independent candidates, for the most part, off the general election ballot, since there's only two candidates who get on the general election ballot, and they're usually Democrats or Republicans. Now, who is the American Solidarity Party? Well, they're a growing party that doesn't, as far as I know, have maybe has ballot access in one or two places, but not too many places. It says its roots are in Catholic social teaching, which I am familiar with from my background in Catholicism. And they describe it as a mix between conservative social values and progressive economic values. And their vision for the economy is something that is regarded by them as in between capitalism and socialism, particularly state socialism, as it was in the former Soviet Union and similar types of states. They they call this distributivism, where power over productive resources is distributed widely within a society rather than concentrated at the top as it is in our system. Actually, distributivism is very close to the economic vision that I have laid out on this channel at least once and probably a couple of times. Includes things like workers, co-ops, and worker-run businesses, as well as trying to spread wealth more widely among the population. The Solidarity Party includes not only Catholics, but also other Christians, such as from the Orthodox churches and Protestant churches, as well as some people who are not Christian and agree with their values. So they formed with a small group in 2011, inspired by Christian democratic parties in other nations, such as in Europe, and other nations such as some of those in Europe. And by 2016, they had grown enough to incorporate as a party, file with the Federal Elections Commission, and they ran their first campaign for presidency, even though that candidate didn't get on a lot of ballots. So that's the top two lawsuit here in California. And then what is up next is, since part of this channel is trying to follow independent candidates, such as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. when he ran for the presidency, it is unusual for independents to run for Congress and to get on the ballot, especially in states that have difficult ballot access laws that are difficult to fulfill. In North Carolina, a candidate did get on the ballot for a congressional race, an independent candidate, which was a first, I think, in the history of that state, at least going back around 100 years or so, as long as we've had our current type of two-party system. So let me bring up this story here. This is from the Independent Political Report by Jordan Wills Evan, published just a few days ago on February 19th. And they say former North Carolina congressional candidate Shelane Etchinson reflects on her historic 2024 unaffiliated run. And the article is really referencing a podcast in which a North Carolina political podcaster interviewed Shelane Etchinson about what she discovered in running as an unaffiliated candidate. And I thought some of her comments were interesting. Now, who is this Shelane Etchinson? Here is some information from Ballotpedia. Ballotpedia is a website that has information about candidates and elections. But here is some information from that. You see that she came in third place behind the Republican. Of course, North Carolina is predominantly Republican. The Republican got about 56% of the vote. The Democrat got about 38% of the vote. And Etchinson got almost 6% of the vote, which is actually pretty good for an unaffiliated candidate, although nowhere near winning. You can see her picture up there, and she has a flannel shirt and jeans on, so really projecting that image of independence and separation from the party elites. She is a graduate of Harvard Kennedy School of Government and had served in the U.S. military, so she has a good resume for running as a candidate, would be appealing to a lot of voters, especially in a conservative state. Let's listen to a few things she had to say that I thought were fairly illuminating, having to do with running as an unaffiliated candidate in North Carolina.
Everything about running as an unaffiliated candidate and that third candidate is really challenging and difficult. And I have a couple ideas on, there's a few paths to actually being victorious as an unaffiliated candidate. One of them is like being either independently very wealthy or famous, have lots of name recognition, or really trying to do a head-to-head matchup having 2 people in the race instead of 3. So after we spoke in June, that was really kind of our focus and interest. Based off our fundraising and polling, we felt like we had enough data to really try to make a pitch to the Democrats and the Democratic nominee that, hey, if we really want to try to get a new representative in District 9, let us go head to head against Richard Hudson. So that was kind of interesting, a little bit of political maneuvering there. And so that was kind of the focus of the summer after you and I had spoken. And
he didn't bite, I take it.
No, he didn't. And, you know, that's his prerogative. We did significantly outraise him. And again, polling showed in a head-to-head matchup, we were actually within the margin of error of Richard Hudson, which in this very gerrymandered district is impressive. But overall, we came in at 6%. So that seems kind of low, but again, comparatively, I'm really proud with everything that we did.
So when we talked, Lily, right out there, you talked about how people are, you want to go to the polls and choose somebody to vote for, not the lesser of two evils,
right.
I think is basically what you said. Do you sense that people do feel that way? And if they do, why are they not moving towards something else?
Isn't that such a paradox? It really is. And that's something that I wish I had clean answers for, Tim. I don't. Because when I would talk to people in the voting lines and educate them on me as a candidate a bit, it's like people really liked it. But they have to take that extra step to know who's on their ballot, what they stand for, and feel confident to cast their vote in a new way for probably the first time in their entire life. So it takes a little effort on the voters' part. The burden for unaffiliated candidates to get on the ballot, I believe, is too high right now. The bar is too high. The amount of money that I had to allocate to that and time and effort, it just already puts you at a handicap right out the gate. So I think the bar needs to be lessened, but that the bar needs to be raised a little bit for people who are still running with the parties, because anyone can just, pay your filing fee and then get on there. Where's the skin in the game? I want to know that someone who genuinely wants to represent us is putting in a little bit of work, maybe getting some signatures, and there's other states that do require that. I don't think that's a lot to ask for, and it just shows that, hey, you are a serious candidate that wants to do this, not just, filling a name on the slot. For those, I would say, in the center that are a little lost, confused, don't really know where to go, I kind of come back to, we need to come back to real life. Get off your phone. Stop consuming this, that. Get in real life with real people and your community and ground yourself. And we do have great people. We do have shared humanity. We do want good for our, ourselves, our families, our children, our communities. And I think that actually instills some hope. And so call it a little bit old school, but I think old school, community organizing is really powerful. So I know for me, that's something that I'm going to be investing more into rather than doom scrolling or, just consuming the news in different media outlets.
That was from the podcast Tying It Together with Tim Boyum, Boyum, which you can find on various podcast platforms. Overall, I think it was about 27 minutes and well worth listening to if you're interested in independent candidacies and things you could learn about from somebody who actually ran the race. I want to highlight a few things that she said in that interview, or at least in the clip that I played for you. I guess it was in both of them since it was in the clip. It was obviously in the interview as well. She first was saying that there was 3 ways she could have done better as a candidate, that an unaffiliated candidate could win, having more money, having more name recognition. And the final one was going in a head-to-head race with one of the other candidates. In her case, I think if she could have persuaded the Democrat to drop out, she would have picked up not only the voters who did vote for her, but the Democrats who would not want to vote for the Republican, obviously, and then some of the Republicans who were not that happy with the Republican candidate, but were never going to vote for the Democrat and didn't consider the independent because they wanted to make sure the Republican won if it was going to be him or the Democrat. So what I'm leading to here is the California's top two primary system actually makes that possible, that you could have the possibility of an independent running head to head with a major party candidate and gives them an opportunity actually get elected to office that way. We've had one case here in the last election of an independent candidate for the state legislature who did end up on the ballot with a major party candidate. They didn't win that race, but it is a step in that direction. Now, another point that Ms. Etchinson made was that voters have to be habituated to voting for non-major party candidates. They already have the desire to see somebody else, other candidates, either independent or from another party, win. They have to be habituated to voting that way and seeing that there's some results from that, which is why I've been working on this project to get all these alternative candidates to work together to set up an endorsement process that can kind of give direction to which one has the best chance of winning. And if each of the parties and independent candidates could stress that it's important to vote for someone other than a major party candidate so we can break this habitual cycle of only the major parties winning, we would all be better off. And finally, what she had to say about the burden on unaffiliated candidates to get signatures to get on the ballot. Of course, that's something that a theme I repeated in my show multiple times covering the presidential race last year, that independent and alternative party candidates have a much harder time getting on the ballot. The path is kind of paved forward for whoever wins in the primaries in the major parties, and other candidates have a harder time of it. So she made 2 points there. We already know it's harder for other candidates to get on the ballot, but she also said, in the same time you're making it easier for them to get on the ballot, you should be making it harder for major party candidates to get on the ballot to level the playing field. They should have to follow the same kind of procedures, such as getting a certain number of signatures similar to that of other candidates, or, all of them should be subject to the same requirements, which is actually true here in California as well. So that third point makes a lot of sense. Good points to reflect. For those of you interested, I encourage you to look for Tying It Together by Tim Boyum, his interview with Shalane Etchinson. And then finally, quite a while ago in one of my shows, I said there was coming up a event put on by the Workers Strike Back organization, formed or led by, among others, Kshama Sawant, who was formerly a leader in the Socialist Alternative Party in Seattle, Washington. They had supported Jill Stein, the Green Party presidential nominee for the presidential election, and this collaboration between Sawant and Jill Stein and other leftists outside of the Democratic Party, which I hardly regard as a leftist party. That's a whole nother story. But all these alternative organizations and people had planned to do a conference in Seattle today, and they did. And you see here highlighted about what it's about. We used to use our momentum for getting out the vote for Jill Stein. Okay, we urgently need a new independent anti-war working class party that can take on the billionaires and warmongers and break the two-party system. So this event was held today, and they did live stream it. It's about an 8-hour event, so I have not had a chance today to review that. I wasn't watching it. I was preparing and making these videos. It's on the On Strike YouTube channel, and like I said, it's about 8 hours long. It's called Fight the Rich, Workers Strike Back Organizing Conference, and I've heard some of the speeches were very good. And I want to add that tomorrow they're also going to have another live streamed event, which is a convention for the members of the Workers Strike Back and others to talk about this idea of joining forces to fight and launch some kind of campaign, and possibly down the road a party that incorporates all these leftist elements that are now scattered among various organizations and parties in the United States. So you may want to check on that if you're interested in that side of the political spectrum. It'll be live streamed tomorrow on Sunday. I will, during the week, try to at least go through some of these and pick out some clips to play next week so you have some sense of what on that event. And those are my stories for this episode, the second episode today. Then I'm going to take a break for a few days, I think. Thanks once again for watching. I appreciate it. Do like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. And if you heed the call to get out there and organize in your community, which Etchinson asked you to do, I think that's a good thing as well. I've been trying to do that. Just moved to California 6 months ago, just getting to know people and make connections and trying to get things organized myself. Also looking for things that have already being organized that I can throw my support to. So if you're in California and you're interested in doing something, send me a line at Alan, A-L-A-N, at politicaldharma.com, because I do have this third-party project that I'd like you to hear about. Okay? Bye, and thanks again.